Hi, this is Siofra Brigid, and this is Siofra's Magic Alcove. So today we're going to talk about Imbolc, or the celebration of Brigid. And depending on the sources that you read, it takes place on the 1st or the 2nd of February. In Catholicism, it's the 2nd of February, called Candlemas, and some people still celebrate it then. Depending on what tradition you're a part of, this is a time for making your own candles, blessing your candles, doing initiations. Um, it's a fire festival in that the sun is getting stronger. It marks about halfway between winter solstice and spring equinox. In some traditions, they actually celebrate it on the full moon closest in between, which would actually be today that I'm recording this, on the 28th, although full moon was at 11 something this morning, my time. The actual moment of the full moon, I guess I should say. So, so there are some fun stories around it, but I thought I would show you how to make um, Brigid's the cross, the Brigid's cross, because that is one of the traditional things to do, and it's a protection kind of a thing. In the old days, the Christians actually would hang the crosses around their cows' necks to protect them from witches, and on their doors and things like that to protect their home from witches, which is ironic, since we're witches and we're making them. And they definitely predate Christianity as far as I can tell. So I got some pipe cleaners here in two different colors, so it's easy to see how this works. So we'll do this part first so you can get the construction of this down. And then as we get going, then we can, talk about some of the stories around it. So the first thing, actually, you don't bend the first one. We're going to start with that one straight. You bend the second one. I'm going to do this wrong right off the bat, right? Traditionally, they used reeds, and we've done it with reeds in our group in the past. Someone actually found some reeds and kept them in water. If you're going to use reeds, you definitely need to have them as fresh as possible, and you need to keep them wet so that they don't get dry. Otherwise, when you bend them, they just break. So you start off, doesn't matter which way you do it. Do this about halfway down or so. So you start off with one folded in half, and you have to kind of keep your fingers on the center, and then you turn it. So the things that go in one direction will be red, and the things that go in the other direction will be green. Bend that one in half. Then you put it. Okay. Apparently I have to hold it that way for a moment. So I'm holding it like this. Then you're going to put your second folded one across up in that direction. Bend it really nicely. Then turn it. So then we have it like that. Bend it again. Bend's funny. There we go. So now you have like sort of a layer of four, although this one is straight, so you have an extra one up top because you have to have a base in order to start on that. Turn it. Okay, so now we've got like a full-on thing going here. And whichever way you decide to turn it, you need to keep turning it in the same direction. If you can remember. This was fun at the prison because I actually got approval for to bring in pipe cleaners. That was a tricky thing to do because there's a little piece of metal in the middle. They were all worried that somebody was gonna get frisky and use it for some bad purpose. Okay, I did that, and all right, I'm there. See what happens when you're talking and doing this at the same time? You can get yourself confused. Then turn it again. Yeah. And if you're getting really confused, you can always, look at the number of arms that you have on each side so you know which way this is going. As you continue to build it, it'll start to develop like a pattern in the center there where you can see where the red and the green has crossed. Get that a little closer. You can start to see the interweaving of it even in the beginning. So, Brigid is one of the more well-known goddesses of the British Isles. And when Christianity first came in, Catholicism in particular was the first Christian form that came in, then they had a hard time getting the people to come into their new churches because, everybody was worshiping Brigid. So the church created a Saint Brigid. And I read her story one year because I was curious. So what was she supposed to have done? And, she was a woman of virtue who was well known in the community, and she got this inspiration or vision to create a convent and a sacred space and so forth, and a center to help the people. And she went to the lord of the manor or the land or where she was and asked him if he would give her some land in order to build the convent. And he said, nah. So she thought about it, and then she came back and she said, well, will you give me all of the land that I can cover with my cloak? And she's a woman, she's got a cloak, it's not that big. And he figured, sure, why not? So he said, yeah. So she went to where she wanted to build her property. She put the edge of her cloak down, and of course it magically expanded and got as big as she needed it to get. So she got as much land as she wanted, and I guess that was one of her first miracles, I'm thinking. Which seemed pretty unrealistic. There are two of these in here. Okay. Kind of hanging together. And so she got her thing. The goddess Brigid is interesting in the fact that she is like a triple goddess in and of herself. A lot of Irish goddesses are like that. They contain all of the different aspects together. She's the daughter of the Dagda, and she was a smith, so she taught, blacksmithing and that kind of thing to the people so that they could prepare for war if they needed to, make weapons, make things for their horses, their oxen, making shoes and all that other stuff. So she's also a warrior goddess. She's a goddess of poetry, and definitely fire, because of all of that, was something that she was seriously into. I sort of twisted that one around. Let me do that again. There we go. Okay, so I guess you can see it on the back side too. I don't have to turn it around. So there you can start to see more of that center becoming the woven different colors and stuff. And yeah, that's the other way you can tell whoever's sticking on the outside. The last one you did, because they have to like fold over each other. Anyway, so she was also a goddess of healing, and there's a lot of sacred wells in Ireland that are sacred to Brigid. People still hang these crosses at her wells and other offerings to her and so forth, asking for healing. So it's sort of an interesting combination of having both her sacred fire and the sacred water. So she was definitely multifaceted when it came to being a goddess. Hold it that way. And the people of Ireland were very attached to her specifically. So some of the things that they did, besides the blessing of candles or uh, you know individual initiations for people in the group, depending on your tradition, um, they this was a time when the lambs were getting ready to lactate, or not the lambs, the ewes, the mothers, were beginning to lactate because they were going to be giving birth to their lambs around this time of year. It wasn't exact. And so milk has become a big part of the festival for a lot of people. Of course, if you're lactose intolerant, and there's so many people who are, you have to make some modifications for that. So, traditionally it's like a drink of milk and honey kind of thing that you would prepare for your ritual, or a milk substitute, I would think, would be fine. And then one of the traditions that a lot of them follow as well is the making of the bride, the doll of Brigid. And in some of the areas, the children, the young girls, would make the doll because they were the purest and would dress all in white, and they would run around to different households throughout the village with their dolls, and the people would come out and give them something to add to the doll, a decoration, some flowers, or something like that. Uh, and then households would often have their own dolls, and the idea was that Brigid would come in during the night while they were sleeping, and then bless the family with health and prosperity and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of those things are, associated with this time of year. So depending on what kind of paganism you're following, if you're traditional Wiccan, or if you're eclectic, neo-pagan, or what have you. I mean, as a holiday, it fits in with the wheel of the year because of its placement. The sun is getting stronger. We are seeing more light on our way to the equinox, so it makes perfect sense when it comes to that. And we've always wanted to make our own candles, but never did get that organized. It's one of those things. I made candles when I was little or younger because my mom got into candle making briefly. So we would make candles. And the Catholic Church has taken on that tradition of blessing candles. You actually can bring your household candles to church and have them blessed by the church, or you can buy blessed candles and, take them home with you and that kind of thing. So there is a definite cross-cultural association with that. There was the group of nuns that were supposedly started by Saint Brigid were the I think they are the convent of nuns that took over the fires of Brigid, because before the Catholic Church came in, there was actually a hearth, a fire that was dedicated to Brigid, and women took care of the fire. It was one of those eternal flame things where they kept it going all the time. And so they had women who were there, young women, who came and did the tending of the fire. My understanding is that, they were unmarried virgin women, but it wasn't like the nuns. They didn't have to stay that way forever. It was just sort of part of what they did, and dedicated that part of, those years of their life to doing this. And one of the popes came along and decided to ex- uh, extinguish the flames and destroy the convent and disband the convent of nuns. The order of nuns were outlawed, and were no longer allowed to practice at that point. So, for a while the Catholic Church maintained the fires of Brigid until, that nice man came along and decided to be a meanie. Yeah, you can really see that starting to take shape in there. I kind of like the two colors because it really gives you a good feel for what's going on and helps you remember where you are. Anyway, so we did a couple of initiations on this day. We only ever initiated 2 people at this point, and then one of them left, and then we had to undo the initiation because it didn't seem like it was right. Because when we did it, it was a matter of actually putting something in their aura and in the chakra, one of the chakras, and we had this idea that we were going to have one for each chakra and help with the kundalini awakening and that kind of thing, which I think would have worked out well. But oh well, sometimes things work like you think they will, and sometimes they don't, because people are independent and they have their own choices and decisions that they have to make. So I hang my Brigid's cross on my front door for protection. This year I might actually add this to my broom thing, which Ian is at the moment figuring out how to hang. I still haven't gotten them hung up, so I can't finish decorating them. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but it's an easy enough craft. Kids like this kind of thing too, so it's something that you can do with the whole family. And children are very much into dolls, so having them, walk around with the doll as the goddess and inviting her to come into the home seems that it would be one of those types of rituals that you could bring children into pretty easily. And there's, not a bunch of, if you're not doing an initiation ceremony or something like that, it's a very nice sort of ritual that you can put together. So let's see. Okay. Once you get it started, it's a lot easier to just keep on going with it. And materials change. I remember when I read about the fires of Brigid being extinguished by that Pope, I got so mad. I'd been to a number of sweat lodges, Native American sweats, and understood from their traditions the significance of the sacred fire and how important it is for whoever is tending that fire to be in the right frame of mind, thoughtful and um, meditative and in tune and stuff like that with the forces, in order to make sure that the stones that they place in the fire to heat up are going to be doing the job that they need them to do, helping to heal the people that are in the sweat and helping the sweat leader um, to focus and get things done the way he wants them to be done. Um, and so, I was very much affected by that story. I don't know for sure if it's accurate, but it seems to me I've seen it in a number of sources. It's one of those things. It's like you can see so much stuff and they may or may not be true. You know how that goes? There's a lot of that. See, that's getting to be nice. And look at that nice design. Nice triangle shapes in there. So, but it seemed like such a egotistical um, thing to go into someone else's area and destroy one of their traditions like that. And it's not like that should be much of a surprise, considering that's kind of, one of the go to things of the idea that Catholicism and missionaries and stuff like that have, and that expanded to the Protestants, and they do the same type of thing where they go in and destroy a culture's traditions. So that's just, one of those things that hopefully we can learn from, but we'll see. I think that's one of the reasons why people want to do some of these rituals to start with. I mean, it's sort of a way of trying to reclaim our connection to the past and to a place where we were more in touch with and connected to the nature that was around us. Um, in my reading, I did come across the fact that in the Egyptian calendar, February 2nd, I think, is the birth time or date or whatever of Newt or Nuit, depending on what source you look at. And she was, when you see her represented in drawings and pictures and things like that, she has her feet are on one horizon, and then her whole body arches over the earth, and her hands touch the opposite horizon, and then her body is filled with stars. So she's like the night sky, and she bridges um, the sunrise and the sunset in that sense, but in the opposite direction, and blesses the earth and what she's doing and so forth. And Crowley is very much into um, Nuit and Hadit, the male counterpart that's on the land. So if you're, reading any of his works, you'll find a lot of that kind of representation in there. They were into the Egyptian mythologies quite a bit. There we go. Boy, I'm getting nice. Look at that. Ta-da! I still have some left though, so I'll make it bigger. And then I'll use one of these things to tie it off. The main thing is with all of these traditions is to sort of tune your body and your mind and your spirit and your energy and stuff to the cycles of the planet that we're on. That's sort of the point of this. I guess there's a couple of Neolithic monuments in Ireland that are actually set up to the sunrise of this particular day on both Samhain and on Imbolc. So that's kind of interesting too. Any time that you can find something like that out, then you know that prehistorically and traditionally it's an important event because, you know, people took note of it and then they did things specifically to make sure that they would be able to tell when it happened and when it was. So they had a lot of time to look up at the sky and interact with the earth. Okay. Spring! But so you can use whatever materials you want, in my opinion. I mean, it depends on how traditional you feel you need to be. If you're a reconstructionist, then you're going to want to have the actual reeds. You're not going to want to use pipe cleaners. But when it comes to these kinds of things, the tradition that it's about is often very much in the making of it. They give me a different number of these things. Oh, that's getting pretty thick, though. I think we're probably about ready to finish it off. Still, it's a fun decoration. Let's see. I'll do one more round. We'll wrap it. Open. There you go. Started with red. There's an extra red in here because that was my base color. So I have to remember that. I'll run out of red first because there's one extra red. I can let the red determine when it's time to finish it off. You guys ever see anything on these videos that you think is interesting? I know a few of you have seen like an orb or whatever. It's always good to know. Because sometimes you never know. We might catch something, which would be way cool. Yeah, I'm getting close there. I need two of those, two of those. So, okay then. I guess this is my last one of the green. I only have two left, and I have two ends I have to tie off. I have one more of these I can do, and two red. Alrighty, cool. Alright, so there's my basic Brigid's cross. Then I'm going to take these, since this is the last one I did, it's the one that's on top. Find my shortest one in there so I can wrap it around and wrap off the end. They don't pop out. As they always end up different lengths just because of the fatness at the bottom. That one. Do that up there. And hey, you guys make a bunch of these, you can put pictures up. I had somebody that did like different colors all the way through. Some people like to do them all the same color. There's no right or wrong way as far as I know, color-wise, since reeds don't have a color, so, you know, we're making this up. Add it there. Okay. Let's see, I want to come out a little bit. There we go, it's better. So, there I have a completed Brigid's cross, and I have one left over. So you can take it and turn it into a hanger if you want to hang on your door. Give it a nice loop. There I have a hanger. I can hang this from my doorknob or from my doorbell or whatever, or just hang it up in my temple or in the house, or give it to somebody, whatever. And if you don't like the thing sticking up so much, you can always do a little bit of a, wrap it in kind of thing. Depends on your particular taste. You want it to be a little bit more even looking or what have you. You can do that or not, doesn't matter. That makes it slightly less poofy, although that kind of looks like hay, doesn't it? A bundle of hay popping up. So anyway, this would be how you make a Brigid's cross, and you too can protect your cow. You have to make the loop bigger though if you're going to hang it around a cow's neck. I just think that that's just so fun that they hung them on their cows sometimes to protect their cows from witches. There are some things that are superstition that don't make sense to me. So there you go. I hope you had a wonderful full moon. And guess I'll see you guys on Sunday. Have yourself a great time. So this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. Blessed be.